What is up, people of YouTube? This Roll here, bringing you guys another video to my channel, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys 12 pro tips for Fortnite beginners. Now, disclaimer before I get deep into this video, I do not consider myself a pro. I do not consider myself a professional on any level at playing Fortnite. But when I did think back and reflect on how far I have come since I started playing the game, I did realize there are a lot of things that I have learned along the way. And a lot of things that have changed since I first started. So I felt like I could take a lot of that information and give it to other people who are just now starting to play Fortnite or are considering getting into the game at all. The first tip that I have for you guys would be to always land at smaller houses or outside of populated areas. So most of the time, especially with skilled Fortnite players, what they'll do is they'll drop inside populated locations. And when they get inside these locations, most likely because they're skilled at the game, they're going to get a gun fairly quick. And once they get a gun, somebody who's new to the game dropping into these populated areas, 9 times out of 10 aren't going to stand much of a chance. So it is always best to go to these smaller houses outside of the big areas, collect your loot, which you might think that they won't have as good of loot. But the only disadvantage to going to those areas is there's less houses close together to get loot, but the opportunity for loot to spawn there, as far as I'm aware of, is just as good as it is in something like Pleasant Park. So by landing in these small houses, you can get your loot, you can get ready for whatever gunfight you're going to get into, and you have plenty of time to be prepared for whatever engagements you might have to run up against. The second tip I have for you guys is that the goal is to survive and win. It is not Call of Duty, it is not Battlefield, it is not any arcadey first-person shooter where all you want to do is run around and get kills and just be hyperactive. If you're a really skilled player later on down the line, you might be able to get away with this, but even then, the goal is always to survive to the very end. That means making things like camping and sitting in a building if you need to survive a wave of the storm or people or whatever you need to do is more acceptable than it is in a game like Call of Duty. So just avoid gunfights if you do not want to engage. If you don't think you can win, wait it out, let them go by, let somebody else take them out down the road. The goal is to survive. The third tip that I have for you guys is to acquire as many building supplies as possible. Use wood for quick walls, brick and steel for endgame forts. That's what I would strongly suggest. You can use wood inside of your endgame forts as your stairway to kind of have a height advantage, but protected by your outside walls. You could always double layer it as well. When you get as many building supplies as you can, sometimes depending on where you're at to the safe zone, it's not always an option, but I like to get my supplies right when I land. I typically do land in the less populated areas. Sometimes I'll go inside towns, but I usually aim for those small houses outside of the populated areas. Like I was talking about earlier, I'll collect what I want, I will tear down the house, and move on to the next location to loot. Another exception in this is if you land at a house and let's say you get a pistol, a bush, and something else, and you don't really have a good weapon, I would not loot your supplies there. I would not destroy the buildings there. I would immediately run to the next location to get a gun before starting to collect your supplies. Tip number 4 is learn how to quick build, and effectively at that. Always build as soon as you begin getting shot from an unknown direction, or even from a direction where you know someone is at. Building is crucial in this game. I myself am at fault for not being very good at building. You might even see it in the gameplays I'm using. I don't know what I'm going to use for this video, but you might see that in tough situations, I don't always use my head and immediately build a wall. That is something that I know players have to do in order to succeed more often. My biggest struggle with Fortnite even now is learning to build effectively, quickly, when to do it, and what supplies to use. So that is my biggest weakness, and if I knew how to build better and if I knew the right way to build, I would definitely have more wins under my belt. Tip number 5 is to know the rarity and quality of guns within Fortnite. From least to greatest, it goes white, green, blue, purple, and orange. That is a pretty common basic knowledge thing, but for somebody who is just looking to start to play the game and you're just looking for videos on tips and things like that, this might be useful for you to know what you're looking for right when you drop into the map. The 6th tip is to always use what is most comfortable for you. By and large, the SCAR is regarded as the best assault rifle in the game, statistically speaking, but if you are better with a burst assault rifle or a regular assault rifle, do not be afraid to use that rather than the SCAR. To be completely honest, I've been finding myself using the SCAR and getting in situations where I couldn't hit my target or get as many bullets on my target, because I wasn't able to shoot as fast as I could with the regular assault rifle. So I'm actually finding that I prefer the regular assault rifle over the SCAR, although because it's purple and orange and shiny, I usually take the SCAR if I find one anyway. But that's just kind of how I've noticed it and how I've realized it. So just always use what you are most comfortable with. With the 7th tip, I can recommend that when jumping from the bus, always know what is most effective. There are 3 options. You can jump immediately and dive towards a close location directly beneath you. You can jump directly over a location you want to be and dive straight down to get there as soon as possible. Jump at an angle as far away from the bus route, landing in a populated area or rural house, so you're kind of just, it'll take a little bit longer to get there. Jumping at a long distance is nothing to be afraid of. Use your glider to make the jump properly, because landing short with no weapons is always going to be worse than landing at a rural house that you are trying to reach and it taking longer than other people around. For number 8, when you're playing solo, the ideal loot to have would be a launcher, a sniper rifle, a shotgun, and your ideal assault rifle. And then you can, look for health loot or an SMG, which is really good for destroying buildings because you can pick up a lot of SMG ammo on the ground. But if you're playing duos or squads, you should be able to, especially if you're communicating well, you should be able to rely on your teammates to have, a good assault rifle, one of them to have a launcher, one of them to have a sniper rifle, one of them to have, a good shotgun, something like that. So that way you guys can work as a team. Because odds are you're probably not all going to get all of those options. So when you're playing solo, just keep your eyes out for those items, because those are very, very crucial to winning a game. My 9th tip is do not be afraid to keep your back to the storm rather than always being in the middle of the safe zone. While in the middle of the safe zone, you do have to look around you. You have to watch the entire circle and its circumference. If you're in the middle, you have to worry about somebody coming up at you from all angles. When your back is to the storm, you typically don't have to worry about that. When I started playing Fortnite, even now sometimes I catch myself doing it, I get super paranoid and worried about the storm coming up to my back, and I feel like I need to run all the time to get right in the middle. But in reality, running like that gets you killed. So if you can keep your back to the storm, time it properly, play it slower, pick off people as they come, that's usually how you're going to get to the end the most effectively. But there is also a advantage to being able to get the supplies you need, get to the middle, predict where the circle is going to go, which doesn't always work out, it's a gamble, and then building up. But once again, that comes with time, that comes with skill. You don't have to worry about that at a beginning level. Swap between your shotgun and your assault rifle when getting into gunfights. This 10th tip is very, very useful. What this does is it allows you to use your shotgun to do the most amount of damage. I prefer the tac shotgun over the pump shotgun, but most people who are skilled at the game will use the pump shotgun. I just struggle hitting people with it and not getting killed. I have seen people one-shot me with it with full health. It is absolutely ridiculous. So if you're good with it, if you're good with the aim, by all means use that. But what this allows you to do is to use your shotgun, do the most damage as possible, switch to your assault rifle, and then just one-shot them and drop them to the ground. Rather than trying to bounce around with a shotgun constantly, you're able to spray a little bit with your assault rifle to finish them off, or even an SMG if that's all you have at your disposal. Tip number 11, crouch aim and shoot to increase the amount of shots you will hit on targets. This is something that took me forever to learn, and I still don't do it perfectly. You see somebody at a range, it is very, very useful, especially when using an assault rifle, to crouch and take your shots that way, because your little hit marker area gets smaller and it allows you to just be more accurate in general. You're going to find yourself hitting more shots. The only disadvantage to this, which is usually when you're up close, is you can't strafe. You can't strafe as well. So if you're up close, I would suggest maybe being able to strafe rather than crouch, but most of the time you're going to be at decent distances when you're getting into gunfights, and I would suggest always crouching and shooting to get more hits on your target. 12th and final tip that I have for you guys in this video is to always tap shot assault rifles. Do not hold down the trigger. So while I do not think that recoil is insanely bad in this game when it comes to assault rifles, I will recommend that in the idea of conserving ammo and just the fact that you're going to hit more shots is to always tap shot your assault rifle. Just tap the trigger. You can tap it as fast as you want. Odds are it's going to be better than holding down the trigger, and you're going to hit more shots. You're going to be able to be more consistent. You're going to be able to decide really where you want every bullet to go. and that is just a good skill to have. This was something that I learned right when I started playing, just from other videos and stuff like that. So I knew what I was getting into when I started, and I know for sure that it helps. It even got to the point where I forgot that the SCAR and the regular AR, that you could hold the trigger down and just shoot nonstop. So definitely something that is useful and helped me out a lot. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video a lot. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button. Also go ahead and comment down below. Tell me if these tips have helped you. Tell me how you've been enjoying Fortnite, or if anything else that you guys want to know about Fortnite that I can properly assist you with. And deuces.